Hi there from Everlast Nutrition, and as always, I'm your host Mike Gales. And before I start this video, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for the millions of minutes viewed so far. I am truly humbled by you guys taking the time to actually watch these videos, and I always love to hear your feedback, either good or bad. And so please feel free to leave your comments below. Spring is finally here, and that means that the summer beach body weather is right around the corner. And to get you ready for that fun in the sun, in this video we're going to go over the naked truth. Yes, the naked truth about having abs. And now ahead of time, I'm sorry because I know this is going to be a long video, but this is a question that I get asked all of the time. And so I want to spend just a little more time to address it so that you guys can get the results that you deserve for this summer. And in my humble opinion, there is so much misinformation out there. And when I first got this job, I promised myself that if I was only going to do one video, then this, and perhaps how to train naturally, would definitely be it, as I hate to see people continuously getting ripped off and deceived. I see it all of the time, and so have you. Buy this electric zapping belt, it's going to give you six-pack abs. Try this crunch roller, ab squeezer. This is a secret to six-pack abs if you're over 40. The only way to have abs is to buy this fat burner that melts away pure belly fat, or if you pay me $99.99, I'm going to teach you a super secret diet that only the celebrities know about. Well, in this video, as always, I'm already paid by Everlast Nutrition to give you guys the truth about exercise and fitness. And as such, I'm going to give you my best tips, and you're not going to have to buy anything. I also kind of hope that other trainers out there take my ideas, copy them, pass them off as their own. I really don't care. As long as people are showing you the truth about exercise and fitness and are not charging you for the truth, then I'm absolutely all for it. Now, I know this video is going to be a little long and probably a little boring, but if you watch this video in its entirety until the absolute end, then you're probably going to learn for free what will probably be your best odds of having abs for this summer, based on science and not some sort of dogma or wishful thinking. Okay, where to begin? Well, I guess that's to show you that I'm not ever going to tell you to do something that I don't do or would not do myself. And now, I'm not a bodybuilder or fitness competitor looking to only be in shape to step on stage. And I'm sure I could be leaner, I guess, but I'm just a simple guy looking to be healthy so that I can enjoy my life to the best of my ability. And thus, I find sustainability is the real key here. There is no point killing yourself to look in shape for only a day or two out of the year. And so to show you this is just not a one-off thing, let's go back super quick and I'll show you what I looked like in 2010. And I'm sorry, but I had to throw in an obligatory superhero pic. And in 2011, I think here I was getting ready to go on a trip to Cancun with my close buddies. Ooh, and 2012 when the iPhone 4S first came out, and I took these shameless selfies with my cool Spider-Man case. And now here in 2013, I was doing a photo shoot for a book that I wrote. And now please note that I don't think I'm special or gifted in any way, but I'm probably doing some things differently than you are doing right now, and we are going to get to all of that. So let's fast forward to last week where I took these photos for this specific video. And once again, I don't think I'm some sort of genetic mutant, special or gifted. I just may be doing some things differently from what you've been told. And yes, I know I need to look like I go to the bathroom or something, and these are not the most flattering pics ever, but you'll get the point. Oh, and one last note, I even just had a baby last week, and I was still able to keep my slender college freshman figure. Nice. I know you're thinking, oh my god, this guy is one arrogant, narcissistic bastard. What a show-off. Screw him, he doesn't even look that good. And oh, but wait, I'm sorry, it's about to get much worse. But like I said, I really want to convey to you that yes, I am nothing special, and I need to prove to you that the principles that I'm about to lay out for you are the ones that actually do work. Now, the internet is littered with people trying to deceive you, and I'm also skeptical of people using Photoshop or airbrushed abs or whatever. So I'm sorry for this, but I'm gonna need to strip down using live video to highlight a few things that I need you to take note of, so the skeptics out there will really have nothing to say. And I'm gonna film this video in my little Montreal apartment, where for one, I can show off my homemade superhero artwork that my sister-in-law made for me. But I also don't want to use any special studio lighting that you may not have access to. So like you would do at home, I'm just going to use a simple 100-watt overhead bedroom light. And like most people will do, I'm going to check myself out in the bedroom in normal lighting in front of this mirror. So for any of my friends or family that are watching, I'm sorry for any disgrace or shame that I'm about to cause you. But here's my signature thumbs up, and here we go. Now, even though my name is Mike, I'm not fooling myself. I have no magic. Let me emphasize, no Magic Mike here at all. So I'm gonna forgo embarrassing myself any further by trying to dance and just get right to it. Oh yeah, and of course I'm wearing Everlast underwear. What would you expect? And so yes, I did strip completely naked solely so that I can call this video The Naked Truth. And before you lose your lunch, I will definitely go back to wearing my underwear, thank God. So here we are standing in front of the mirror, totally exposed, with a normal bedroom light. Nothing fancy. And yes, I know this is probably making us both feel very uncomfortable, but it's for a good reason, so please bear with me. Now here really quick, I just need you to note that my physique is balanced and that I train both my back and I train my legs. It's not all bench press and bicep curls. In fact, legs are comparatively my strongest muscles. And don't worry, we're gonna get to exactly why that is. Now I'm going to do a full video on always being 100% natural versus not. And please, I'm not trying to hate on anyone. You live your life and you do what's best for you. I really don't care what you take or you don't take. That's completely up to you, and I'm not here to judge you. But where I must take offense is when someone is actually doing A and telling everyone that they're doing B. Then people try doing B naturally and they never see any results. That, I'm sorry, is just not fair. So it's very important for me to point out that I've always been, not just today, not just in the past 5 years, but always been 1,000,000,000% natural. None of this, oh, I never took anything unless my coach said it was okay for me to take. No passing the buck here. No anabolic has ever touched me. No hormones, no testosterone, no pro-hormones, nothing ever. And so you will notice that my abs are not overgrown, my stomach does not go past my chest. With a lower fat percentage, it's not supposed to, even if I breathe in deep or whatever. You're never gonna see any GH gut on me or rib cage or sternum that is overgrown. I'm also not covered in any acne, even though it's irrelevant, but in case you're wondering if I have to shave my chest, nope, I'm Irish and I really don't have a lot of body hair. But yet I do have all of my hair on my head, and I'm not prematurely gray. And you don't see any bulging rear delts that are impossible to achieve naturally. You don't see me with any gyno or huge nipples or anything. And like I said, I will do a future video all about natural versus unnatural training. But in the meantime, I thought, what could I show you to demonstrate that what I'm about to tell you is a natural way of doing things and not chemically enhanced? Now, I know for a fact that I've never touched anything, and I could pass any drug test or lie detector test ever devised. But then I thought, what do I have on hand that I could possibly show you? And then I remembered, oh yeah, we did that basics of blood pressure video last year. And anabolics or GH in most people, maybe not in all, will raise your resting blood pressure. Yet research tells us that natural resistance training should have the net overall effect of lowering your blood pressure. And so really quickly here is when I wore that BP cuff for 24 hours for that video to show you that as it should be for natural resistance training, my diastolic blood pressure are in the lower ranges from 43 to 74. And my resting heart rate is from 41 to 65. And now I know you may be thinking, why is this guy showing me this junk? But it's imperative that I have you understand that this is done naturally. Because if I was taking any sort of anabolic steroid, growth hormone, testosterone, amphetamines, or whatnot, it would affect my metabolism. And then the whole point of this entire video would be absolutely moot. Because I'm sorry, you cannot be chemically induced, yet telling people that they can achieve it naturally following your protocols. And I will come back to that point in a few moments because it's crucial. And it's one of the main reasons why there is so much misinformation out there that is probably slowing down your progress. Finally, I'm not 18 anymore. I'll be 41 in just about a month. Yet all the same principles still apply. And just for a frame of reference, I'm just under 6 feet tall and you can see my abs. Not at 150 pounds, but somewhere in the neighborhood of around 200. And I know it looks terribly conceited, but truly that's not my intent. I just need to show you what can be done naturally, and the key word is naturally, and sustained naturally, because I really am not some sort of genetic anomaly. Like I said, in fact, I really don't think I'm special at all. I just train and sometimes eat smart. And just imagine if you happen to have those great genetics, how much more awesome you will look than I if you apply these same principles. And so now that all of that unpleasantness is over, let's move on to getting you those abs. Quid est veritas? What is truth? What is truth? Well, that can be a very philosophical question, I guess, depending on who you ask. Whether it's Socrates, Aristotle, Kant, Bacon, I guess the results will vary. But when it comes to exercise and fitness, and specifically getting abs, what is the truth? And why don't people tell you the truth? Where did things go so wrong? Why is there so much misinformation out there? And each year it seems that a new way to drop those extra pounds hits the market. And every year that new weight loss regime claims to be the greatest thing that research and science have to offer. Fast forward 6 months after its release, and crickets. Just another phony product on a shelf with all the other phonies that have come before. What happened to that guaranteed weight loss miracle or abs in a bottle? I know it's frustrating and you may be thinking, don't these scientists know what the hell they're talking about? And why is it that everybody has a different method of getting lean and mean? Not every diet regime works, does it? Are carbs good or bad? Why is it I just can't get any clear answers? For God's sakes, all I want to do is just drop some weight so I can see those abs. Why does it have to be so confusing and so difficult? So why all the misinformation? Now, this is my own personal Mike Gale's opinion, but for what it's worth, I believe that the problem started by two main factors. One was the advent of technology and the mass production of goods. North Americans seemed to trend towards cheap and convenient food, and the government subsidized certain foods like corn, wheat, soy, rice, beer, milk, beef, peanut butter, sunflower oil, etc. Now, it's not that these foods are not without their merits, but the problem is that those foods, especially the way they're processed, are extremely high in calories for their density. And due to those government subsidies, the deck has actually now been stacked against you, as those foods that are the highest in calories are also the cheapest and the most widely available. And you know this when you go to the store and you see that a box of cereal is cheaper than a few heads of broccoli, or a bag of chips is cheaper than a bag of apples, and especially when you see that a bottle of soda is cheaper than a bottle of water. Secondly, with the advent of technology that was supposed to simplify things, the reverse actually became true, and it pushed our lives to a much faster pace. In fact, now we actually have less leisure time to take walks, work out, play sports, etc. Also, technology made certain things more efficient and less labor intensive, and as such, we also got lazier. So basically now we have this trend of eating much more calorically dense food and exercising less. And hold that idea in your head of eating a lot more and exercising less, because we are definitely going to come back to it. People in the late 70s, then the 80s and 90s noticed they were getting out of shape, and then many looked to so-called fitness gurus, many of which came from the ever-growing popular sport of bodybuilding. Now, I have mad respect for bodybuilders, and I honestly don't think I could do what they do, especially as pro bodybuilding is a sport that is 24/7, and you need to be on point every minute of every day. And I love to eat, so I don't think that I can remain that disciplined. So kudos to you if you're a bodybuilder. And in the golden era of bodybuilding, the quest was to see how far the human body could be taken and how far it could be sculpted. And the guys back then made no bones about it. They at least would acknowledge, sure, I'm taking such and such a hormone or whatever, and this is exactly and precisely what I'm doing. And that was the cost of doing business. It wasn't illegal at the time, and it was what it was. It's when the anabolics that these guys were taking became banned substances. Because now what happened is that you can no longer have these guys openly state, yeah, this is exactly what I'm taking. And when you can gain significant, and I mean significant amounts of muscle in relatively short periods of time with anabolics, make no mistake about it, your metabolism and fat burning capacity will go through the roof. And when you have that artificially chemically induced anabolic trigger, you could be following the most ridiculous training routine and following the most ridiculous diet and still see some sort of result. And that becomes the major problem, because training naturally versus not natural is not, let me repeat, is not the same thing. You also had a population that had a significant rise in rates of obesity, and they were ready and willing customers. And there was mountains of money to be made by anyone who seemed that they could offer a quick and easy solution to the nation's weight problem. I mean, we were entering the computer age and the age of the internet. There had to be some sort of technological advanced answer to having abs. People wanted to believe that science has something better to offer than simple diet and exercise. And so now you want the truth. But a large part of the truth is something that you already know, and maybe you just need a little reminder. So now for a moment, let's take a look at some science to debunk some of these myths that are promising you these magic bullet six-pack solutions. First and foremost, you already have abs, so it's not a matter of getting them. Trust me, you have them. It's a matter of becoming lean enough to actually be able to see them. Using fat calipers are notoriously inaccurate, and you could have 5 people measuring the same person and have 5 completely different readings. Now, many people think that you need to be at 5% body fat to have abs, and I recently saw on social media some girl saying that she was 5% body fat. Right, well maybe, but if you're a girl and continuously walking around at 5%, Well, that, I'm sorry my dear, is just not healthy for you. Now, if I had to guess, I would say that I am somewhere between 10 and 12%. And I know what you're thinking, ooh, that's kind of high, right? But don't you need to be at like 5% like they say in the magazines? I think that at 5% body fat, you're actually closer to death than to being healthy. And so don't expect to be very energetic at 5% body fat. And good luck continually living out your life like that. Also, because I'm heavier by nature and I carry more muscle mass, I don't have to drop to as low of a percentage to still look well defined. So to begin, yes, you have abs, and no, you don't need to kill yourself to drop down to 5% body fat to see them or enjoy them. Next is the concept of spot reduction. If you want to have abs, just do crunches, or take this secret fat burner that's just going to melt away pure belly fat. No, it won't. And now your body will lose fat from everywhere, and not just one specifically targeted area. So sure, doing crunches will help strengthen those ab muscles, for sure, but you still need to be lean enough to see them. And so let me be clear, because I can't be any clearer. There is no such thing as spot reduction. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but those ads promising quick and easy weight loss and sculpted abs from a bottle in 2 weeks are reaching for your wallet while telling you what you want to hear. Why do those DVDs, electroshocking belly belts, and other gimmicks end up in the back of the closet? Yeah, you know it, because they don't work. Truth is that your body loses weight from everywhere. You can target which muscles to strengthen, but there's no way, yes, I'll say it again, no way to precisely target where you're going to lose the fat. So sit-ups, crunches, and other abdominal exercises will strengthen your core muscles, but no, they will not burn away pure belly fat. So now I feel like I need to address why those electric shocking belts or those sauna suits or all that other junk cannot possibly ever work, so that you will never end up wasting your money or your precious time again. Once you accept the fact that you actually have abs and that you only need to be lean enough to see them, well, then we can switch our focus and our mission to burning away the fat that's concealing them. So, a little science if you please, good sir. Don't worry, I'm not going to get too technical here and bore the crap out of you, but I do need to cover a few basic concepts so that you understand why what I'm about to tell you is actually true. First, you need to know that your body uses only one, yes, only one source of energy to function. And that source is known as adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Believe it or not, all the energy in your body actually comes from the sun. How so? Well, plants capture the energy from the sun during photosynthesis, and then that energy is passed on to you when you eat plants or animals which have eaten plants. Breaking it down even further, the macronutrients of carbohydrates, fat, and protein all contain the building blocks for you to be able to produce ATP. In fact, the main reason why your body needs carbohydrates, fat, and protein is so that it can produce that energy source of ATP. Only a small amount of ATP can actually be stored within the muscles themselves, and so your body is in constant need of replenishing the building blocks so that it can produce ATP. And so this brings us to why you have fat in the first place. Your body stores extra energy in the form of lipids as adipose tissue, or fat. So basically you can think of all that fat as stored energy that your body can use later to make ATP. Our bodies are efficient, adaptable machines. The ability to store fat has been an important survival mechanism for our species. Our bodies store fat in times of plenty to prepare it for times of famine. And I think you can see the problem now, and that's that famine doesn't come too often anymore in North America. Instead, there is an abundance of food here, and because of those subsidies, most of the food around is very energy dense, meaning that they have a lot of calories for the volume that the food actually has. As a result, Americans tend to ingest a lot more energy, not necessarily carbs, but a lot more energy than is needed. And the buildup of that excess energy is then stored by your body as body fat. And yes, you already know this, the only way to get rid of that fat is to expend more energy than you're consuming. Okay, a quick point that I need to bring up here, and you can ask your trainer or maybe your know-it-all friend at the gym this, but we decided that to see your abs, you're gonna need to burn some body fat. So for one, how exactly is your body gonna do that? And two, when you burn that fat, where does that burned fat actually go? So you're gonna lose 20 or 50 pounds. Where does that actual tangible 50 pounds or 20 pounds actually go? Well, we all know Newton's law of thermodynamics, which basically says that energy in a system cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only change forms. Okay, so then, where did your 20 or your 50 pounds of fat go? Did you poop it out? No. Your body's excrement was just leftover stuff that wasn't digested. So no, that fat didn't get pooped out. But you say that it was used up as energy. And I know some of you think that you're hot stuff, but your body is not E equals MC squaring mass to pure energy. I promise you. So sorry, nope, try again. Wait, I know what you're gonna say next. You're gonna tell me that you sweated it all out. Well, if you perform an analysis of your sweat, you're gonna find that it's mostly just water and some electrolytes. So nope, you didn't sweat it out. So once again, where did all of that fat go? What happened to all of that fat that you burned off? Well, let me tell you, it's your breathing. As your body uses its oxidative energy source, some people may call this slow glycolysis, your body is basically using oxygen to break down fat stores for that ATP stuff. And so fundamentally, that is why you breathe in oxygen and why you exhale CO2. I know some of you are like, I don't believe you, Mike Ailes. There's no way that all that fat goes into the air. And that's cool, and of course I encourage you to be skeptical. But let me reverse engineer this for you. You plant a seed in the soil, right? Where does the plant get all of that material to grow into a huge tree? Don't think too hard. The material for the wood was not in the soil. The plant is using carbon that it catches from the air. Once you realize that your body fat is burned through beta oxidation, then you're going to immediately realize why all of these gimmicks will never work. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, these sauna suits and these ab zappers don't really raise your body's ATP requirements. And as such, your body does not need to break down fat for ATP. Okay, sure, a sauna may make you sweat externally, increasing your body temperature, forcing your body to thermoregulate. But you are not moving and you are not breathing any harder, are you? Thus, I'm really sorry to report that you're also not burning any fat. The same goes for those shocking belts. They may cause a slight muscular contraction, which may be causing you to up a little more ATP, I guess, but you're still not breathing hard, and because there's no such thing as spot reduction, sorry, but you're not losing any real fat from over your belly. You cannot zap your way to having abs. Let's go back to the sauna for just a moment. Just because you're sweating doesn't mean that you're burning fat. The reason you sweat is because your body is trying to cool itself. During exercise though, your muscles contract, which requires energy. That produces heat, which your body vents off through sweat. If your body is heated externally, such as by wearing a sweatsuit or sitting in the sauna, it still needs to cool itself off by sweating. But since the heat was not generated internally, your muscles did not need any ATP, and that means that they didn't expend any energy. All you're doing is dehydrating yourself because your body still needs to sweat to stay cool. You lose water weight from sweating, which is what people do to cut weight, but as soon as you rehydrate, the weight will come right back. And because the fat stores were never burnt off, that fat is still gonna be there. So let's take a quick look at macronutrient distribution. So what are macronutrients? Well, they are the foodstuffs that your body can use to make ATP. And you know them as carbohydrates, fats, and protein. We measure the energy as far as food goes in calories, and that's with a big C. And 1 calorie has enough energy to raise 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. And you need to know that a gram of carbs has 4 calories, yet a gram of protein also has 4 calories, and fat has 9. So why do carbohydrates get such a bad rap then? Well, I guess it's because it's easier for your body to break down carbs and use them for energy rather than fats or protein. But carbs are not bad for you. In fact, my diet is mostly carbs. And let me steal here from my favorite movie. They never really told you about carbs and your diet. They told me enough. They told me you could never have them. I have carbs in my diet. But no, that's impossible. Search your feelings. You know this to be true. No. Seeking advice from people trying to make money off you, you are. And that is why you fail. And I know you're thinking this guy is the biggest geek I've ever seen in my life, which is probably true, but it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. The age-old question about carbs, are they bad for you? Your body will gain the same amount of extra weight from 2,000 calories of carrots, 2,000 calories of steak, and 2,000 calories of cookies. However, many low-carb or low-fat diets are successful due to energy density. In other words, cookies have more calories per volume than carrots. And really, that is why carbs are often demonized, because often you will find that many carb foodstuffs are high in calories as compared to their volume. But carbs are your body's preferred energy source, and a healthy diet should have a good portion of carbohydrates within it. So please forget about nixing carbs from your diet, because it's not the carbs. Really, it's all about the math, and that is because your body is a great mathematician. It's all about the math. There are millions of different diets that come and go, but the one that worked in 1717 still works in 2017, and we go back to Newton's law of thermodynamics. With regards to your body, is simplified this way. If you eat more energy than you burn, the extra energy will be stored as fat. Remember, if you want those six-pack abs to show, your fat percentage needs to be low enough for you to see them. You simply need to burn more calories than you consume. You have to find the right thermodynamic equation for your body, aka you have to find the right balance between the energy you burn per day and the amount of energy from food that you consume per day. A few things to remember. If the thermodynamic equation is kept in balance, you're going to maintain your weight. If you consume more energy than your body burns, your body will store that extra energy as body fat. And if you end up burning more energy than your body consumes, your body will use its fat as fuel and you're going to lose weight. So there you have it. You have to expend more energy than you consume for your body to use its fat stores. Science has always been clear on this. However, it seems that weight loss companies confuse the issue when trying to make a quick buck off of snake oil. These companies somehow try and convince people that the laws of physics work for everywhere else in the universe except for with them, and that they need these magic pills to get thin. They're wrong, of course. Weight loss or weight gain will always come down to thermodynamics, and that is how much you burn versus how much you consume. And anybody that is telling you anything different isn't telling you the whole story. Want to burn more calories per day than you ingest? That's easy. You just have to make better food choices to keep the calorie to volume ratio low. And perhaps you need to think about increasing your activity level to burn a little more energy. You already knew that though, didn't you? And now we're going to get to some of my favorite tips for doing that in just a moment. So back to the macronutrients, and since we were talking about truth and philosophy, let's look at the philosophy of my diet, which in essence is based on Aristotle's golden mean. I guess this concept even predates Aristotle, as Pythagoras said nothing in excess. Anyway, Aristotle's golden mean. Now he was speaking of vices, yet basically he stresses that a balance must be struck and that moderation is usually the best course of action. Even though this is ancient Greek philosophy, I applied the exact same philosophy into my diet. I don't follow any extremes. All of these people that follow these very strict extreme diets, how successful are they? How healthy are they? How long could they even keep it up? If their diet was so simple and so easy, then why isn't everyone doing it? Because it really didn't work. Let's forget about fitness gurus and bodybuilders for a moment, and let's take a look at athletes, particularly pro athletes, whose careers live and die on their performance. Many pro athletes look like statuesque Greek gods, but I promise you that they eat carbs because they need to perform optimally. Now, how is it that they, the greatest physical specimens on the earth, eat carbs, but you are not supposed to? And now I'm going to give you a simple breakdown of what a normal diet with balanced macronutrients should look like. People try and complicate it, and of course your needs may vary, but for an athletic person, this will do just fine. So carbs should be roughly 50% of your total calories. And again, notice that carbs take up 50%, yes, 50% of my caloric intake. Now, I try to stay away from simple sugars, although I do love chocolate and cookies, and so I indulge here and there. But as much as I can, I try to stick to fresh fruit and whole grains, such as brown rice, pastas, and maybe even some high-fiber cereals. In my case, the bulk of my diet is actually fruits, cereals, and pasta. Now, fat should make up about 25% of your total calories, and we're talking about good fats like nuts, olive, flax, and fish oils, and peanut butter. I love peanut butter. Protein should be 25% of your total calories. Now, I usually don't eat meat, but for you, try lean sources such as chicken, fish, whey, etc. And these levels of macronutrients will differ depending on your goal and activity level, but these are the general ballpark figures you should shoot for. Nowhere will you see 0 carbs in an athlete's diet. So what is the truth when it comes to carbs? Like René Descartes, I encourage you to always question what people tell you is truth. So don't believe what I tell you. Make up your own mind. Yet also like René Descartes, I find it difficult to trust my emotions. Yet I do trust mathematics. And the mathematics of thermodynamics will always work for weight loss. And I also believe that truth should be universal. And this is what I mean. I can explain the success of every one of those fad diets using my concept of thermodynamics. Yet their diets cannot explain my success. So, low-carb diets only somewhat successful because many foods with carbs have higher calories to volume, meaning that a cookie has more calories than a cucumber, even though the cucumber has significantly more mass. Yet we are still talking about overall calorie reduction. The diets that are all intermittent fasting, so that means that you eat one day and not the next, for example, well, sorry, but that's still calorie reduction. The no-fat diets, still calorie reduction. All of those caveman diets, well, by avoiding processed food, for the most part, still calorie reduction. You start to see a common denominator here. So let's just flip the script here. My diet has carbs, still works. My diet has fat, still works. I even cheat on my diet here and there, and sometimes I even eat some processed food. Still works. So how is it that I'm breaking all of the laws of their diets and I'm still succeeding? I wish I was some sort of superhero, but sadly I'm not. It's because the math is at work here. And let me be clear so that I don't get a bunch of hate mail. There is no doubt that the human body is very complex, and there are different factors for the absorption and breakdown of different macronutrients. So I'm not saying that, but like in physics, there is the electromagnetic force, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. But it is the force of gravity that is the overall sculptor of the universe on a larger scale. The same goes here. If your entire focus is on the digestion of carbs or fat, well, that's kind of like zooming into a single pixel on your computer screen. Yet focusing on thermodynamics is like leaning back from the screen and realizing that that pixel was only a dot on the nose of a picture of the Mona Lisa. Next, does having abs only come down to diet? And I see this misrepresented on social media all of the time. I've recently seen this on social media, and maybe so have you. Science says it's all diet. It's not exercise, but it's all diet for six-pack abs. I remember when I was young in university and we had to take an epidemiology class, and the professor asked the exact same question. Is staying lean for the long term more of a question of diet or a question of exercise? Once again, I guess the truth depends on your point of view. And the teacher and I got into a little bit of an argument as he concluded from all of the studies that diet was the biggest influencer. And when I told him that I didn't really believe him, he began to chastise me, telling me all about the data and the figures from the studies and whatnot. So his main argument was that individual bouts of exercise, be it resistance training or on the treadmill or bike or what have you, were not intense enough to burn enough calories to compensate for all the extra calories that the average American was consuming. And so, according to him, an alteration of diet was the true answer. I told him that I thought his facts and figures were flawed and that they didn't depict the truth, to which he disagreed. So let me explain my argument to you. The problem is that the scope of the actual caloric consumption of people who resistance train was not fully taken into account. As earlier that semester in a physiology lab, they hooked me, the most muscular guy in the class, and a tiny girl who was very fit but maybe only 120 pounds soaking wet, and they hooked us up to a machine that measured the amount of oxygen we were inhaling versus the amount of carbon dioxide we were expiring. Sound familiar? Remember, I alluded to earlier the fact that fat is actually exhaled by your body. So that experiment was basically indicative of our resting metabolic rates, which gave an idea of how much energy we were actually expending. And I think that I was 800 calories over her. And that's not factoring any extra exercise, just for living and breathing. So what's the real difference? Is it because I was a guy? Maybe. But no, the main difference was the fact that I carried a lot more muscle mass than her. And that extra muscle mass that I was carrying needs extra calories in order to survive. Thus, my resistance training boosted my metabolism much more than that of the average person. And for me, it was more effective than cutting a mere 200 to 500 calories out of my diet, which is the standard recommendation. So lean muscle, in my opinion, and I had to logically conclude that after partaking in that experiment, lean muscle is the greatest weapon in fighting the battle of the bulge. Now, there are many that may disagree, but that extra muscle mass is ultimately what kept me from personally gaining excess fat, not a strict diet. And I can guarantee you that you will have an infinitely better looking physique that's sculpted by a mix of both a balanced diet and exercise rather than just some strict diet alone. Because a strict diet will simply leave you looking skinny and not nice and toned. When I was in my 20s, I usually weighed about 220 odd pounds, and I could eat whatever I wanted, and I did. And that's because my extra muscle mass then could compensate for the extra calories I was consuming. Now, I may not be as lean as I was now, but my metabolism was still higher due to that extra lean muscle mass. Oh, how I miss those days. If I could turn back time, if I could find a way. Oh my God, I miss that. If you guys are young right now and your metabolism is still nice and high, then please enjoy it while you can, because it's fantastic. So my whole point here is when you're young, it's a little bit easier to carry a little extra muscle mass, and that extra lean muscle mass will definitely help you burn a little more calories, thus keeping your metabolism a little higher. Yet this brings me to another fallacy, that all of the physiological principles of weight loss change once you're over 40. I'm sorry, but eating avocados or avoiding bananas or fruit juicing everything or whatever the hell they're propagating these days, I don't know, people tell you the craziest things, just doesn't really work. I'm about to be 41 next month, so yes, I'm over 40, and the only thing I've done with age is to adjust my caloric intake to match my aging metabolism. Now, I have lost a bit of muscle over the years. Not a lot, your testosterone level definitely does take a drop as you get older, but I've lost enough lean muscle to lower my metabolism a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I still eat probably way more than the average person, but I just can't pig out the same way that I did in my 20s. I also can't lift as heavy as I once did, and I don't recover like I used to. But the overall principles of my balanced diet and my training to maintain lean muscle mass haven't changed at all. And guess what? It still all works just fine. Nothing too crazy to be done when you're over 40, except for the fact that you may have to alter your caloric intake to match your aging metabolism. So how should you train to get those abs? Well, like I said, the goal of my resistance training protocol should be to gain or maintain as much lean muscle as naturally possible. That will not only make you more functional, but it will also keep your metabolism as high as possible. And I know that you only have so much time, so here's a novel idea. Maximize your time by training large muscle groups. Contrary to what many experts say, sit-ups and crunches are not the path to six-pack abs. Core exercises have their place, but squats, lunges, and bent over rows are the best exercises for revealing a sculpted midsection. That's because you burn a lot more calories by training larger muscles. And by adding new muscle, you're also raising your metabolism. Also, squats and lunges do help the abdominal muscles stabilize your core. Let me break it down for you. If I had a pair of twins that both needed to lose 20 pounds to show off their six-pack, and they both only worked out 3 days a week for 30 minutes, while my twin doing workouts of squats, lunges, rows, and lat pulls will be there much more quickly than his twin brother, who is simply doing crunches for a half hour, and that is a fact. That is why in the beginning of the video, I said that I focus on training everything, and that includes and definitely probably even focuses on training my back and my legs, because those are the biggest and the strongest muscles that I have. Another point for your workout, if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, then maybe you should stop trying to isolate individual muscles. There are far too many people that simply focus on single joint exercises, like a preacher curl for example, thinking that by really isolating the muscle, that's going to give them a superior result. The only problem is that in the real world, your muscles were meant to work together in tandem. And so you might want to focus on multi-joint exercises if you're limited on time. For all you ladies, this one's for you. I said this in other videos before, but I've seen women spend 30 minutes straight working out on an abductor machine, expecting to get nice overall toned legs. Do yourself a favor and do a quick search on which muscles of the leg you're actually training. Your time would be far better served working multiple muscles with squats and lunges rather than trying to isolate smaller muscles such as your abductors. Same thing goes for all of you guys. Once again, you're going to build much bigger arms with a standing barbell curl than you would with a preacher curl. So if you only have so much time allotted for your training, then please maximize that time with multi-joint exercises. Next, when it comes to resistance training, there's this myth out there that the only way for you to get ripped is to lift light weights for high repetitions. And oh my God, did this myth spread far and wide. And that misinformation is out there because training naturally or when you're chemically induced is not the same thing. And that's because when somebody is chemically induced and they have that anabolic trigger, it's very important for them to have blood flow, hence the high volume training. Normally the goal of somebody who is chemically induced is to get as much nutrient-rich blood to the muscles as possible. If you're natural, that's not going to work because the intensity level is not high enough to elicit that anabolic response. And so I'll see some poor guy doing 50 repetitions of concentration curls, working to add extra definition, and all I can do is shake my head. Think for a moment just about what definition actually is. Again, please don't take my word for it, but just think for yourself. It really comes down to being able to clearly see the muscles through your layer of skin and fat. And having great muscle definition, again, is all about fat percentage. And having larger muscles with a low fat percentage is what you're really after to look sculpted. When a person who is not chemically enhanced does extremely high repetitions, they may become catabolic and they're going to lose some muscle tissue, which is counterproductive to achieving the desired sculpted look. So as a general rule, if you're natural, you always want to lift a heavy enough weight to achieve an anabolic adaptation response from your body, and you should not be burning your muscle tissue with super light weights for 50 rep sets. And as for the cardio, there's always this myth that you need to be doing an hour of cardio to burn fat. Too often I see a guy walking on the treadmill and I ask him what his goal is, and he tells me to tone up. And then he looks at me like I'm some sort of an idiot and says, don't you know that you're only burning fat if you're between 60 and 70% of your maximum heart rate, and you have to keep that up for at least half an hour? And then I say, all of those hours and hours that you spent running, yet you still don't have the look that you're going for. Why is that? Now don't get me wrong, I applaud them for putting in that hour-long effort, but they would achieve a superior result by changing their training method. Now this guy's spending an hour working out, and that is fantastic and great. But I advise doing some resistance training for 40 minutes to build some muscle, followed by only 20 minutes of cardio but at a faster pace. If your goal is to have lean, toned muscles, then too much long duration cardio will be counterproductive because you may burn off muscle tissue. Again, please don't accept anything that I say as gospel truth, but let's look at a real-life tangible example that you can see for yourself. Let's say we have both a marathon runner and a sprinter. Now both of them are lean and they both have amazing cardiovascular systems, but the muscle mass of the sprinter is much different. And that's because the sprinter does more intense cardio while the marathon runner does long bouts of extended cardio that over the long run are catabolic to his muscle tissue. Now of course this is always a personal preference, but would you rather look like a marathon runner or a sprinter? And if you're looking for a muscular look and you answered sprinter, well then maybe you want to train like a sprinter and not do 2 or 3 hours of long duration cardio that's going to be burning your muscle tissue. Another question I get all the time is, as far as cardio goes, or your workout in general, what type of workout should you do? This again, for some reason, is a touchy subject as people get so fanatical about their workouts. I've had people tell me I only do yoga and everything else sucks, or only CrossFit for me, bro. If you're not doing CrossFit, then you're not training. My golden rule is always consistency, because that is the true key to good health. And sure, in a perfect world, I would advocate 10 minutes of warming up, then 40 minutes of resistance training, followed by 20 minutes of moderately intense cardio. But you need to do what's best for you. And that needs to be something that you don't mind doing consistently, at least 3 to 4 times a week. And so I always advocate movement, simple movement. And yes, I did say if you're going to resistance train, then train larger muscles so that you can maximize your time. But if not, then you find something that you like to do. For example, I like boxing, but I'm not fanatical about it, and I'm not going to tell you that it's the best form of training for you. It may be what's best for me. Why? Because I like it and it keeps me consistent, yet I also like basketball, squash, and tons of other stuff. The point is, everybody is different, and you do what you like. As long as it's intense enough that you feel that you're pushing yourself a little bit, then you go for it. Just remember that something is always better than nothing. And the only workout routine that's ever gonna work for you is the one that you're gonna actually stick to. Next, what about supplements? And so in full disclosure, I'm gonna show you everything that I take and exactly why I take it. Now, I'm not telling that you need to buy all of this stuff or any of this stuff. I'm just going to show you what I'm taking and why so that we have full transparency here. I use a protein supplement, and of course I work for the company. I use this vegan blend from Everlast Nutrition, and I really do like it, and it's the only protein that I've been using since it came out a couple years ago. And thus far the results have been great. I find that it digests extremely well for me, and the thick consistency is actually quite filling, which is a huge plus when you're trying to stay lean. Now don't worry, I'm not going to preach, but I normally don't eat meat in my diet. If I do go to someone's house as a guest, I will always eat whatever they are serving. Again, I'm not fanatical, but in my day-to-day I need extra protein. If you have a high protein diet, then maybe you only need one after your workout. Maybe your intake is even higher and you don't need any, but this is what I use. I also take a one-a-day multivitamin just to ensure that I'm not missing anything from my diet. Next, there are some people that may be alarmed, but that's for no reason. I use creatine monohydrate. You need creatine to survive. And yes, you have some in you right now. No, it's not a hormone or a steroid, it's a collection of amino acids, and it's actually quite natural. Your body uses it to make that energy source called ATP, and without creatine, you would die. Because I usually don't eat meat, which is a great source of creatine, I supplement with creatine, and I find my strength really does increase dramatically. Perhaps if you already have enough creatine in your diet from eating meat, you may be just fine. Perhaps supplementing won't make a bit of a difference for you, but for me, it works. I use 5 grams a day, not 25 or some crazy amount that forces your kidneys to overwork. Just 5 grams of simple creatine monohydrate, and I find that really does help my strength. Some people may say that it bloats. Well, I'm using it right now and I don't look or feel bloated at all. I also use this electrolyte BCAA mix called Everlast Fuel. Again, I work for the company, but I also do like it, and I always use it, and so it's here on this list. And I usually take this about a half hour before I work out to keep hydrated and also to guard against muscle wasting. It's also loaded with antioxidants that protect against the damage caused by free radicals, which are thought to be a major cause of aging. In my youth, I often took pre-workout mixes for a boost before the gym, but I had trouble sleeping. And so at the age that I'm at right now, this works perfectly fine for me. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention other companies, but I use it and I love it. And this one is not even an Everlast Nutrition product. It's called Brain Armor, and I'll leave a link below. It's new and is currently being used by some top universities and some pro team. And what it is a great, I'd say the greatest, DHA supplement out there. If you don't know what DHA is, it's an omega-3 fatty acid, and your brain is loaded with this stuff. There is tons of literature on DHA and the brain, eye, and heart health. You'll even notice that infant formula is often fortified with DHA to support cognitive health in newborns. And this Brain Armor stuff is just a pure form of DHA. Anyway, in my case, I box 20 rounds a week, and I also love theoretical physics and philosophy, and I still want to be lucid enough to converse about them with my grandkids when I'm 90 years old. And so, go Brain Armor go. For anyone, especially if you play contact sports, then you might want to check it out. And like I said, I'll leave a link in the description below. I also do have caffeine in the morning. For me, I need an energy boost. I'm one of those living dead zombies until I have my first cup of coffee. It may increase your fat burning capabilities, and it may be effective in controlling your appetite. Just try not to overdo it on this one. 600 milligrams of caffeine should be your maximum, because you still want to sleep at night. I have what they say is 3 cups, but really it's just 1 big mug of coffee to start out the day. Funny that you may notice that I don't use fat burn. Now, I'm sure that there are tons of studies showing the thermogenic effects of green tea, for example. And as for fat loss, they may slightly boost your metabolism. Also, many burners do have stimulants like caffeine, which I mentioned may give you an energy boost, but they also might cut your hunger a bit. Yet I don't use them. But I won't rule out that for certain people they may help a bit, as perhaps they could help control your hunger. But let me be absolutely super clear. I don't know if I can be clearer than this. There are no magic pills. There are 0 magic pills that are going to exactly target your belly fat. Once again, your body burns fat from everywhere to meet your energy requirements. And like I said, maybe some diet pills might slightly boost your metabolism or curb your appetite so that you won't feel hungry, but that's about it. As far as science can tell right now, losing all that belly fat is not going to come from a simple pill. If only it were that simple, that you could just pop down a simple pill and all that belly fat would just melt away. Well, if it exists and you have it, then please send it to me and I will eternally love you for it. There is an epidemic of obesity that contributes to more death than anything else when you factor its connection to heart disease, certain cancers, and diabetes, and the list goes on, where obesity is a contributing factor, so this is huge. Think about this for just a second. You have some of the most brilliant minds and some of the biggest companies working on this problem, because if they could solve it with a simple pill, it would be the biggest money maker of all time. But unfortunately, these magic pills are kept a secret that only Bobby at the gym supplement store knows about. Shh. Yeah, right, Bobby. So once again, a recap thus far. You already have the abs, you just need to be lean enough to see them. Yet you don't need to be 5% like all the magazines tell you. Being double that, you can still see your abs. Strict diets don't work long term, and there are no magic pills that burn pure belly fat. And I recommended a balanced diet which is based on calorie consumption and some moderately intense exercise. Not too much of a help? Okay, here we go. My number one trick is so simple and so easy to implement. It's free and it absolutely works. Switch all of your drinks to water. You can eliminate a ton of calories tomorrow just by switching everything that you drink to water. And unlike cutting out food from your diet, drinking water is not going to make you feel any hungrier. And right now you're thinking, but I don't like water. But it becomes a very simple mental adjustment to make when you start to think about it the same way that I do. Now, I was out not too long ago with a bunch of friends, and the waiter passes by and he takes everybody's order for drinks. Some people are having alcoholic drinks, some people are having soda and whatnot, and then when he gets to me, I ask him for simple water. 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, he comes around for a second round of drinks. Everybody does the same thing one more time, and once again, I say, water please. Later on in the evening, after dinner, he comes around the same thing again, and once again, I simply say, water please. And then one of my friends looks at me and he's like, what's with all the water? If you're short on money, I'll lend you some cash. And I'm like, that's not the problem. So why only the water? Because it comes full circle to that concept of thermodynamics. And you see, my body doesn't care where those calories come from. And so many people watch what they eat, but they pay absolutely zero attention to what they drink, as if for some reason the liquid calories just don't seem to count. And for me, those 2 or 3 drinks that my friends just had with dinner represents an extra 600 calories. And now I love to eat. And to me, that's a guilt-free brownie ice cream combo for dessert. And that's why I'm drinking the water. I make the mental calculation, don't drink this so that later on you can eat that. I would rather not have those 3 drinks so that I can have dessert with my supper. And besides, I've gotten used to the water over time, and I much rather have dessert. Another factor for drinking water is that guys always ask me, whoa, your skin looks paper thin on your forearms and your shoulders and etc. How did you get so vascular? Well, high sodium diets cause many people to retain water in their skin. I know it seems counterintuitive, but drinking more water helps eliminate water retention. So the combination of drinking more water and consuming less salt will give you that thin skin needed to show off your six-pack abs. The big problem with my advice here, and the reason why you don't find it in any high-profile books, is because it's only a paragraph. So that would be one short book, and you're not going to have many celebrity trainers telling you to only drink water. Why? Because it's free and there's nothing to sell you. So to give you a quick example, most people come to me with an average of 20 pounds that they want to lose. I don't know why, but 20 seems to be the most common goal. So let's look at this in terms of drinks. These same people have 500 milliliters of sugary juice, milk, or soft drinks with each meal. So we can roughly say that's 600 calories per day. Oh yuck, some math. So that's 600 calories by 30 days, let's say in a month, for 18,000 calories total for that month from drinks. Divide that by 3,500, the energy needed to break down 1 pound of body fat, and you get 5.14 pounds in a month. So that's roughly 4 months for you to drop that same old 20 pounds that's been plaguing you for years. And so how long have you been trying to follow all these fad diets to lose that 20 pounds? Once you come to the realization that any successful diet is actually based on math, well then you can start to use the math in your favor. You can alter the math in your favor by cutting out excess calories wherever you can, and by partaking in moderately intense exercise that burns some extra energy. And hopefully you'll also build some lean muscle, so now you're burning extra calories 24/7. My friend, it's the end of March, so you have all of April, May, June, all the way to the end of July, and you'll be ready to hit the beach by this one tip alone. And oh my God, if you start to factor in 3 or 4 days a week of some moderate exercise training, well now you're really getting somewhere. And it wasn't really that complicated, was it? It was actually kind of simple. Now finally, once you have the look you desire, how do you maintain it? Well, that is why I showed you all those ugly pics at the beginning of this video. I can maintain it because my diet isn't so strict. I still work out, I still drink the water, and I still indulge here and there. And right now I'm at 200 pounds, give or take, and in all the videos that you see on this channel, I'm somewhere between 200 and 210. You see, I'm not fanatical and I give myself a 10-pound window. And what that means is that if I'm between 200 and 210, I feel like I can treat myself. And trust me, I have zero reservations about doing that. But once I'm over 210, I begin to pay a little more attention. And I'm a little more careful until I'm back to around 205 or so. This way, for whatever reason, if I want to look leaner, well then I only need to lose a few pounds, which is infinitely easier than trying to drop the standard 20 that most people want to do. The truth. What is the truth? Once again, you have abs that are just covered by some fat. Remember for the most part that they got covered by eating more calories than we should and not expending any extra energy. And that did not happen overnight. It was gradual and you didn't even really notice it. And so don't think that you're gonna lose it overnight either, because you won't. I'm sorry. The truth, once again, for getting those abs is that it is gonna take a little bit of work and a little bit of dedication. Once you accept that fact that it's gonna take a little work and a commitment, then we can stop hoping and praying for miracles and turn our attention to what will actually work. And you can maximize your time and effort by remembering that there are people that have an agenda and they're trying to sell you bunk. So don't waste your money or another second of your time on some ridiculous diet plan. Every guru out there will accept the fact that you gained weight by eating too many calories and not exercising enough. But to burn off the weight, all of these gurus disagree and have a different method. They just don't want to believe that you can reverse engineer the process by eating less calories and burning more. That's kind of like accepting the fact that you can get from here to here, but you can't get from here back to here. Finally, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I really want this to sink in. Just remember that you already have abs, it's just a matter of being able to see them. And you don't need to be at 5% body fat like all the magazines are telling you. Also, carbs are not the devil. In fact, they will give you energy so that you can better enjoy your day and power through some grueling workouts. So, eat a balanced diet where you basically pay attention to your caloric intake. And remember that sure, I acknowledge that there are other factors that play with the digestion of macronutrients, but people prey on that and try to confuse you. So don't overcomplicate it. And you can trust that thermodynamics and math will not let you down. So try and keep it simple. Why? Because that's what works. So quickly, just look at the labels and note the serving sizes because that can be a little tricky. So just take notice and try your best to reduce your caloric intake. I recommend sneaking in things wherever you can. So if you're having supper, add some broccoli to it for volume. Anywhere where you can fill it with volume for little calories, do it. If you're having a turkey sandwich, let's say, then add lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever. It's better to have one super packed sandwich than to have 2 or 3 plain ones. Also have salads and soups that are low calorie as well. These things will help fill you up without overloading on calories. And just a quick note to be mindful of what you're adding to those vegetables because drenching them in sauce or cheese kind of defeats the whole purpose. And be mindful of what you drink. Remember that you're doing yourself a huge favor by switching all your drinks to water. And if you can, keep with the philosophy of everything in moderation, even cheating and having dessert when you have to. Never be so strict because if your diet is too strict, you will never stick to it. As for training, rule number 1 is that anything is always better than nothing. So if you find something that you love and you can do it, then you do that. If you are going to spend the time resistance training, then forget about only doing ab exercises for an hour and instead focus on larger muscle groups with a moderate weight. Doing high volume with light weight like bodybuilders do probably won't help your cause. Remember that you want to gain or maintain lean muscle to augment your metabolism because that will be your biggest weapon in burning fat. As for cardio, remember that sprinter versus the marathon runner analogy, and you want to up your pace and maybe reduce the amount of time that you run if you're currently running over 30 minutes. In a perfect world, I would advocate resistance training followed by cardio 3 to 4 days a week along with a well-balanced calorie-controlled diet. And that is going to be your best bet. But you pick your battles and do what you can. Remember to give yourself that 10-pound window so that you can actually enjoy yourself, but you can also keep yourself from letting your weight get out of control. All of these things are true and they will help you get those abs ready for the summer, and no one can debate that. Now that you know what is true, I love Plato's Republic in the allegory of the cave, where there was a bunch of prisoners that were in shackles and forced their whole lives to face only forward looking at a wall. A ways behind them was a fire, and the light from the fire would cast shadows on that wall, of the prisoners themselves and of other people passing by. Not ever knowing anything different, the prisoners believed that the shadows on the wall were in fact real beings. Now this has a lot to do with the concept of ideal forms, but one day one of the prisoners was dragged out of the cave to see the fire and eventually the sunlight for the first time. It was hard for his eyes at first, but over time he began to realize the truth, that the beings on the wall were really shadows of actual true beings passing by and from the fire. When he returns to the cave and he tries to explain to the other prisoners that have been in their whole lives that the light from the fire is what creates the shadows, he's not believed. For they have no concept of fire or of shadows, and they continue entrusting what they believe to be the truth. So you can believe that I'm some sort of genetic freak and that not everyone has abs, or perhaps I'm nothing special and that you also have abs, they're just concealed. You can believe in magic pills, devices, or unicorns, or that it's going to take some dedication and some work. You could also believe that it's entirely complicated and that only different diets work for different people, or that basically all diets are based on thermodynamics. You could continue to believe that you need to train your abs for an hour a day, or that there's a better way to spend that hour in the gym. Finally, you can choose to believe that this Mike Gales guy is crazy and he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. Or you can try it because it probably will work for you. Also, he's not asking you to pay a dime. The only thing he is asking you is to pay it forward. And the next time you see someone about to buy some crazy fancy gizmo or spending 2 hours doing crunches at the gym, that you just simply walk up to them and tell them that there's a better way. Once again, I'm sorry for this extra long video and I wish you nothing but success, my friends. This has been Mike Gales for Everlast Nutrition, and if you like these videos, then please click below to like and subscribe, as we're constantly posting up great tips and new ideas that are meant to get you into the greatest shape possible.